Well, it's Daily Life Connection time again. Thanks for joining us. 2 Samuel chapter 9, story of Mephibosheth. We're still there. We're working through this story and exploring how it reveals God's heart to us. So yesterday we talked about how David sent for Mephibosheth and he brought him to the king's palace. And it's there that Mephibosheth and David have an encounter. There's a conversation that goes back and forth between them. And Mephibosheth, it's obvious from the things he's saying that he's concerned. He's still concerned. He still thinks David will want nothing to do with him when he sees how broken he is. He still is suspicious of David's motives. He still can't believe it's true that he's going to be welcomed as a royal prince into David's family. But my point today is this. Mephibosheth really learns who David is when he gets in his presence. Mephibosheth really begins to comprehend the scope of David's heart when he gets in his presence, when he gets in that palace. And so it is with us. So it is with us. When Mephibosheth was in Lodabar, I'm sure he heard about David. I'm sure he heard the good, the bad, and the ugly reports. But he was only hearing it secondhand. He was only hearing what others' perceptions of David were. Some probably said, you better lay low because he's a powerful king and he's going to wipe you out when he finds you. Others may have said, he is important, he's busy, he doesn't want anything to do with you, just let it go. And so, and then the king's servants come and they say, David wants to bless you. So he's heard all these things. Well, which of them are true? Which of them are true? He wants to believe that David's good and has his good heart, but he can't be sure because he's only hearing from other people. But when he actually gets in the palace and in front of David, and David begins to extend to him a welcome and a blessing and value and dignity, and begins to lift him up out of his Lodabarness, it's only then that Mephibosheth really begins to understand the heart of King David. At a distance, you and I can only know God by what others tell us. And the reality is, lots of people have very different opinions of who God is and what he's like, both in religious circles and outside of them. Some people are like, God's angry and he wants to fry you and send you to hell. Others are like, well, he certainly doesn't want a sinner like you. Others are, oh yes, he's good, and he will give you life to the full and bless you if you do this and this and this, if you straighten up and fly right, and so on. But it's only when we get in his presence that we really begin to learn the heart of God. And how do we do that? Simply by making a specific, intentional time to be with him. Reading his word, meditation, prayer, worship, whatever it may be. Those are things that bring us into the presence of God, that open up his presence to us, if you will. They're the horses that get Mephibosheth to David's palace. It is things like the word of God and worship and prayer and so on. The point of them is not they earn us the right, but they're the vehicles that transport us to God's presence. And in his presence, there we begin to learn who he really is. Who he really is. In 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18, it talks about how as we behold or gaze upon or meditate on or spend time in the presence of God himself, we become transformed. We begin to see his glory. We begin to get a clear picture of how things really are. So that's what I just want to encourage our hearts with today. It was only when Mephibosheth got in the presence of David that he really learned the heart of David. It's only going to be when we get in the presence of God for ourselves that we really begin to learn his heart. Listening to me on these I'm so thankful you do, but it's me telling you who I believe God is. I want to encourage you to personally get on those horses that get you into his presence. Spend some time worshiping or listening to worship music. Spend some time reading the Word, especially the Gospels. Spend some time meditation, silence, solitude. Those things that just are the vehicles that get us into His presence. And then when you're in His presence, just stop there and just listen to His heart. Just listen to His heartbeat, and we will begin to know who He is more and more. Oh, that's good news. Let's talk about it. Let's think about it. Let's rejoice in it. And we'll talk again tomorrow. God bless.